Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and this is the show about truth, hope, and change. I know you thought it was about THC and cannabis, and it kind of is too. But mostly, it's about truth, hope, and change. And yes, we do pursue the whole idea of THC and its value and what's going on with all of that. And that is what the show is about. Primarily, we've been dedicating our show to the pursuit for medical access to cannabis, because those are the people that are left out the most and in need the most, especially with this so-called legalization that we've just passed the 3rd year anniversary of. And still, the medical patients are totally left out in the cold without any access to things. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glen. We'll have our CSP update, which we didn't get to last week. For those of you that were watching, I'm sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties once we moved outdoors. The battery on the camera died, and the show ended. So sorry about that. We didn't get to last week's CSP update, but hopefully we'll have battery power enough to do that today. There's an event coming up, the All Hallows Eve at the Art Gallery in Vancouver. Will be another opportunity for us to protest. It looks like Mother Nature is kicking in. 5 days ago it said it was going to be raining on Sunday, and I never like doing an event outdoors in the rain and the cold. I've kind of not gone along with the idea of doing a Halloween event for many years. But this year it's not about me. It's going to happen anyway. And as the days got closer to this coming 31st of October, next Sunday, the weather has changed, and now it's going to be sunny all day. Not even a cloud in sight, according to the weather office, which of course changed their mind on a regular basis, and we'll just see what happens next Sunday. But it has been getting better, not worse, as we get closer to that, and that's a really good sign. And so hopefully that event pulls off really well. It should be good, and there's open vending, so if anybody wants to come down and vend their products, we'll support all of that. There's no charge for vending. Should be a good opportunity for the cannabis community to get together and have some fun. Maybe a good mushroom night, who knows. But that should be awesome. You can find out more about this at 420reasonstostay.org. And there's also a way that you can order tickets for an after party that's going to happen. They're $40 a piece, and there's going to be some really good live music and a bunch of good stuff going on there. So check all that out this coming Sunday. Check it out ahead of time at 420 Reasons to Stay. If you're in the area and you're interested, we'd love to have you come down. So we had an election in Canada, and things stayed pretty much the same. But an election typically means that there's a cabinet shuffle, and we have had that. So after all of this time of being in contact with Patty Haydu, the Federal Minister of Health, and trying to get them to give us an exemption to the Cannabis Act to allow for us to not feel the threat of arrest and interdiction in our project here of giving away cannabis and providing low barrier access to cannabis. So she didn't get it done. Shame on you, Patty Haydu. You had all that time. Been well over a year. We're into over 13 months now since we sent that application to the Federal Health Minister. Maybe the new minister can do better. In this case, we have a new ministry as well as a new minister. So there still is the health minister, who's going to primarily be occupied with everything to do with the pandemic. But we have a new federal minister of health and addictions to deal with the other parallel epidemic that's killing more people in Canada than the pandemic is, and has not been getting the attention that it should be getting. And maybe now there's a chance for that. So we have Carolyn Bennett. She is the new Minister of Health and Addictions for Canada. She was previously, or the former Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, which is also likely a positive, because there's a lot of the Indigenous community that are struggling with this same epidemic of overdose deaths. And many of our clientele here with the Cannabis Substitution Program are Indigenous. So, we have new hope that perhaps we can get some traction at this time. Certainly it's a new opportunity for people to be contacting the Health Minister and the Minister of Health and Addiction on our behalf. Express to them about your knowledge of this group that's been doing fabulous work on downtown East Side, if I do say so myself, where we have hundreds of people, almost 300 people, part of our program. Many, if not most of which, indicate to us that they're no longer using any of the street drugs, that they're quite happy with using cannabis, that cannabis has saved their life. And so that's a really profound thing that we've met there. We've done some amazing good in this neighborhood with the Cannabis Substitution Program. The Cannabis Substitution Program is a response to two things. First and foremost, the epidemic of overdose deaths due to a poison drug supply. And secondly, to the City of Vancouver's action against the medical cannabis dispensaries that were here. Those dispensaries had high-dose edibles, thousands of medical patients that were able to access each and every one of those. Every one of them had over 1,000 members, and some of them like in the tens of thousands of members. There was somewhere between 150 and 180 illegal, unlicensed medical cannabis dispensaries at that time. And the City of Vancouver decided that they would attempt to regulate those businesses, even though it was federally illegal. And so they did that using land use legislation that they have at their disposal. And in doing so, they took away a whole bunch of the revenue streams from these dispensaries. They tried to make it as hard as they could on the dispensaries. Their idea of licensing was actually more of an idea to try to get the vast majority of them to just go away, with the distancing regulations and distances to schools and other things, and then all the revenue streams that had to go away. But the most important one of that, of course, was the regulation about no more high-dose edibles. In fact, they didn't allow edibles for sale at all during that time period. When legalization in Canada came in, this fake legalization that we're still fighting against, they did allow and do allow for some edibles, but just real low-dose edibles, which do nothing for the medical needs of people that are using cannabis for medical purposes, and certainly are not anything that a person could use to get through withdrawal and get off of the opioids and the other street drugs, which is the true value of cannabis in this epidemic, is the ability of the high-dose edibles to be able to get people through withdrawal, which is the greatest barrier to getting off of drugs. The reason that I think that they do qualify as being called addictive, and that people do have addictions to these things. I know there's people that are, fans of Dr. Science who don't believe in anything to do with mental illness or addiction. But when there is a physical response to the habitual taking of certain substances, that if trying to stop those substances would result in serious physical discomfort for a period of time, well, that's a barrier to getting off of those things, and that keeps people on those things. And truly, the path to getting off of opioids through withdrawal without the assistance of high-dose edibles is like, I've heard it described as the 7 levels of hell. It is horrible, and so many people have expressed that to me, that it's not something that you really manage to do easily at all, if at all. In many and most cases, people don't succeed in getting through withdrawal. They end up, halfway through it, going and getting some more of whatever substance they were on to alleviate the pain that they're in. So, that barrier to getting off of opioids is the biggest one of all. And that's where cannabis high-dose edibles comes in. That's where they have been extremely effective. It's been all well documented by Dr. M.J. Malloy for one, but numerous other clinicians across North America, around the world, in the UK as well, have been looking into cannabis and its efficacy with respect to opioid replacement. And it is absolutely a viable alternative. Not only does cannabis help a person get through the withdrawals, but it answers all the different drivers of addiction. The reasons why people get addicted to these drugs are because they're not doing well, and they want to do better. They want to feel better. They're, in most cases, struggling with trauma that's happened either physically, emotionally, things that have happened to them from childhood on throughout. Many people in adulthood end up with traumas that affect their lives so greatly that people seek solutions. And desperate people will do desperate things, and one of the potential solutions is to start sticking a needle in your arm and taking opioids and dealing with pain that way. That certainly has been the go-to for the medical profession for a very long time, and so people are more apt to do that. it's something that happens to them. Typically, they're on the opioids in the first place. They get to find out that those opioids can help them with the pain and the trauma that they're suffering because something happens and the doctor puts them on them. And then once they find out how it helps them, then they stay on them longer than they should. Opioids are never meant to be used long-term. They're for short-term pain intervention, and it's not that difficult to get off of opioids if you've only been on them for a short time. But once you've been on them for a while, there you're dealing with withdrawal and you're dealing with all the barriers to getting off of them. And so cannabis needs to be there. That's all there is to it. And we need to have cannabis as an option for people. And we knew that once the overdose epidemic happened. I certainly knew that. My experience of working at the Herb School, 1 block from, or half a block from Main and Hastings, or Wastings and Payne, the #1 dealing center for opioids in North America. We learned by having our little dispensary there that the people in the neighborhood that were struggling with addiction would come in, use our products, and then rave about how especially our edibles could help them get through their nights without using opioids. And that became the key for me when the overdose crisis hit again in 2016 or 2015. And so that's why we started the Cannabis Substitution Project. And we've been trying to get legitimacy ever since. This is the craziest thing. I never thought we'd be closing in on 5 years of the project and still not have official government sanction on what we're doing. It is the biggest example that I could have ever imagined of exposing the corruption that obviously runs very deep and right to the top of our government here in Canada. We proved really quickly that it works, what we're doing. To give away high-dose edibles to people that would line up, hundreds of them for hours, and then the testimonials that they would give about those, that they would come and tell us how they're no longer using the other drugs, how cannabis has saved their life, the better health and well-being that they're experiencing, they're sleeping better, the pain is reduced, their anxiety is reduced, all those drivers of addiction, as I mentioned, that cannabis can address. We got all those reports about all of that going on. There was no problems, except when I mentioned that I didn't think there'd been too many people that had eaten too much, because that is one of the issues with cannabis edibles, is that you can eat too much and it won't kill you. So that's why it's a non-lethal alternative to these other lethal drugs. But it is not very much fun. It's not very comfortable. A lot of people do not like having eaten too much cannabis. In fact, it really fends a lot of people off that otherwise would use them and get off of opioids because they eat too much to start with. They don't enjoy the experience, and then they stop at that point. And that's really too bad, because if you start low and go slow, you can find that dose that'll work for you. And everybody's different as to what that is. So, you know, you can't tell somebody, well, you have to start here and you can't do more than that, and this is probably what's going to work for you. I mean, you can say all of that, but it really doesn't mean anything to an individual, because there's so many individuals whose tolerances are way up or way down or way different. And so people need to be able to find out for themselves. They need to have it available as an option. And so we started supplying that, thinking that, you know, it wouldn't take very long for the governments to get on board with us. It took 2.5 years. It took over 50 studies from Dr. M.J. Malloy to finally get to City Council in Vancouver. Enough people had commented to City Council about this project that was going on where they're giving out high-dose edibles, and it really seems to be working. And then M.J. Malloy's studies were reviewed by City Council. They passed a motion unanimously to support low-barrier access to cannabinoids for the opioid crisis, and to include the East Hastings corridor, which had been an exclusion zone prior to that. We were very hopeful at that point. 2.5 years into our project, that's still a very long time. I was like, wow, I never would have thought it would have taken 2.5 years to get what we got. But we got that, and we thought that was going to be that we were going to be licensed, we were going to be able to move indoors into a storefront, we were going to be able to expand our project. Well, here we are, almost 5 years since we started the project, and we're still not licensed, and we're still not moved indoors, although now we're not handing them out on the street to people that line up for hours twice a week. We're here 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, providing cannabis from an RV, because that was the circumstances that took place. And this is what I'm alluding to, is that this is ludicrous. We proved, beyond any shadow of any doubt, dramatically, that cannabis can help people get off of opioid addiction. Fabulous news, one would think. News that should have been broadcast through the mainstream media, picked up on by local and federal public servants, and they would have got behind that right away. My goodness, a natural plant product that had been maligned and we'd been misinformed about with lies of reefer madness and laziness and all this other bullshit that had happened for all these decades, that we now know so much better than that. In fact, now the government is the seller of cannabis to people. In fact, they like selling cannabis to people so much they want to be the only ones that sell cannabis to people, and they're proud of themselves for doing that, and they're proud of how many stores they got and all the rest of it. But they're still not going to allow for high-dose edibles, which would absolutely help answer the overdose crisis. They're not going to allow for low-barrier access, or at least they haven't yet. Maybe they will. We're waiting to see. But it is really an abomination of what should be going on, of what the actual, the difference between right and wrong here is plain as day. It is black and white. The right thing for public servants to do at this point in our program of what we've been proving here is to support us with funding as well. I mean, they should supply us a space to operate from. They should give us a big grant. They give out lots of grants to people to help with things. We are doing the work that government should be doing. We are people that have the lived experience and the experience of dealing with this situation for almost 5 years here on the downtown east side. We deserve to be supported by our governments, the federal government, and given a license to do what we're doing. If that requires a special exemption in the meantime to the Cannabis Act, well, that should have been quickly forthcoming. We applied for that over 13 months ago for an emergency temporary exemption. We were told by Patty Haydew's office, she was the Minister of Health at that time, that they would try to process that in a timely fashion. And we're over 13 months later. They have hampered our ability to save people's lives. They have affected our ability to help this neighborhood in profound ways by subjecting us to being into a cramped RV with no credibility, with not the ability to get a bank account because we can't get a license. A bank, we will be honest, always. I've always been honest. I am not a clandestine drug dealer that's trying to get away with shit and make a bunch of money here. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to help people that need help. And I've never tried to hide anything about what we're doing here. I went to the police board before I started handing it out to people on the sidewalks and told them what I was going to be doing. I went to city council. I tried to get them on board. When they said that they would support low barrier access, I went and met with the city. We had an understanding that I'd find a storefront, and I did. Took about a year because, like I say, we're honest with people, and landlords don't want to rent to people. And part of my honesty is that we are going to provide cannabis to people to help them. And the banks and the landlords, they all say, well, are you licensed? Do you have approval from Health Canada? And if you don't, well, then we won't rent to you. We won't open an account for you. But we did find a landlord. We did open an account. And here we are. It only lasted 5 months, and because we didn't have a license, we ended up getting kicked out. I don't know why my alarm didn't go off, but I am looking at my clock, and it is 4:19. So go ahead, roll them if you haven't yet. If you got them, you got less than a minute. And I'll say that please, contact the new Federal Minister of Health and Addictions, contact the media, contact everybody and anybody you can think of on our behalf. Now's a good time to give another push for getting the government to allow for what we're doing here. It needs to happen. People need low barrier access whether they're addicted to opioids or not. We need this to happen. And it happens if enough people get very vocal about it. So, look up who the new health minister is of health and addictions. That would be Carolyn Bennett. And send her a letter on our behalf, please. And encourage them to do the right thing and to help save the people that we can save with cannabis as an option. It's 4:20. And 4:20 means that I'm joined by 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. How you doing, Glenn?
Good, how you doing, Neil?
I'm doing fine.
Happy 420.
Happy 420.
Happy 420, everybody.
What a wonderful thing that twice a day, especially once during the day.
Yeah, well, once we're sleeping.
Not everybody's always sleeping.
Anyways,
There's a fair amount of people that are on that other side of the spectrum.
I've rolled over on my pillow and looked at my watch and it was 420.
They determined that there's daytime people and nighttime people,
Oh, yeah?
That some people are actually wired to be awake during the nighttime hours, and other people are wired to be awake during the daytime hours.
Wow.
And the reason for that was because, thousands and thousands of years ago, humans in small groups, needing to protect themselves from wild animals and other things, would designate certain people to do the night shift. And so there was the night shift people and there was the day shift people. And it's gone on to this day, where there's people that are much more comfortable being awake in the early hours of the morning, and other people that just like to sleep.
I worked 4 years of Canada Post night shift, and it was because you got paid more. But I did that for a while.
And there, some people do it against their nature, and some people do it with their nature. Some people, they're more comfortable.
Yeah, we got $18 an hour plus $1.10 shift premium.
How long ago was that?
1990.
Well, that's a long time ago.
Yeah,
30 years. 1990 was more than 30 years ago?
Yeah, I know, eh? Isn't that strange?
Time.
I know.
Zoom!
Yeah, my kid was born 30 years ago, my first one.
30 years ago, the Cannabis Substitution Project wasn't even a glint in my eye.
No. No, eh?
Hadn't even thought about it.
No.
Nothing.
Wow, eh?
30 years ago, my son was 10 years old.
Yes.
I was in a marriage and working in the mainstream.
I was my first kid.
No thought that this is where my life was going to be 30 years later.
And neither did I when I was just selling hash in Toronto.
Right?
I gave it up as soon as the baby came. That was it. I'm not going to be doing that anymore.
Yeah, I actually sold cannabis throughout high school and until I met my wife at the time.
Yeah.
And, I really didn't sell anything during that time. You're right, I hadn't even thought about that much.
I sold at Young and College for about 8 years. Between Grosvenor and College Street, there was a McDonald's there and an arcade. And you'd always find me playing some pinball, some hash in my sleeves, and cash in my pocket.
And thank you for that. You know? And thank you to all of the past dealers that helped me get access. And thank you to all the people right now that are helping people get access. Thank you even to the bikers, As much as I don't appreciate some of their methods, they've done a lot of the heavy lifting in getting cannabis to people. It's strange, that a bunch of tough biker dudes would be gardeners and providing medicine to people. But that's what they did, only because there was good money in it, and they were still rebellious in doing it. But, thank you to all the people that have been willing to risk to move our movement forward, but to also provide the cannabis for people, because
and for
people
doing the time. I did lots of time for it.
Doing the time. Oh my God.
Did a lot of time for it. Can't go to the States. Can't take my daughter to Canada, to Walt Disney World in California or Florida because I've got a criminal record with cannabis on it. I know.
Man. I try to have the 420 session a little lighter than the rest of the show.
All right.
And every once in a while, we slip
we fall
into
back
it
into that,
because it's the reality of our world.
It's our history.
It's our history. It's
our history.
It's what's going on.
Yep.
They've been putting good human beings into cages, taking their money and their ability to get jobs away from them, ruining their reputations, destroying their families and their lives for decades and decades.
And they tell you to get a job and find a place, but then when you've been in and out of jail and stuff, it's really hard to find a job and to find a place. It's like, you guys put me here just for this product, right? Something that was helping me, right? And now I'm doing time for it.
Many people were just absolutely helping people that were sick and in need. Yeah. Many times it was family members. They have harmed the cannabis-consuming people so dramatically for so many decades. It is time to say sorry.
Yeah.
It is time to stop any penalties for cannabis. Oh my God. There needed to be that day where it was like, we got it wrong. We're very sorry. We'll never do anything like this again. There needs to be that day.
We need Tommy John as our Prime Minister. I think that's the only way that we never get something like that.
Well, we're certainly not getting it from that lying fuck Trudeau, who's just in favor of money for his friends. Trudeau lied to me right to my face, said that he would respect my individual sovereignty as a human being to be able to access cannabis freely and easily. Said that medical patients wouldn't need to worry because legalization was going to take care of them. And then, he took care of them all right. Booted them right under the bus.
11 months for a permit for me so far. And then he sent a letter.
Jail time, serious jail time for people if they supply their younger teenage brother with some weed. The stupidity of penalties for pot.
Or if I give my mom some CBD for headaches, Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, well. All right, let's just hope that the future will bring better news for us.
We'll just keep doing this until it does.
Yep,
We'll just keep doing this till it does.
I don't mind being here at 4:20 on a Tuesday smoking dope with you.
you know my philosophy on life.
Yeah.
Have as much fun as you can.
You can. Yeah. On Tuesdays, we're doing that.
I am pissed off about cannabis being illegal. I am so outraged by the amount of damage and cost to our community, to our society in general. Even if you're not a cannabis consumer, you've been paying tons of taxes going to ruin those people's lives. Yep. So, it has really affected our entire community in horrendous and horrible ways. So, yeah. Thank God cannabis helps with stress.
So on a lighter note,
Minnesota's
here in Vancouver today, and we're playing our very first game in 20 months with a full stadium. Wow.
I apologize to all those people who were counting on a win last time. Apparently Glenn and I jinxed it by wearing our Canucks gear, so as you can see,
we're not wearing, so this is a test. Yeah.
I'm not going to be presumptuous anymore. If they string together a few wins, I'll support them and put the shirt. I still support them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to jinx them. I'm not going to say, "Hey, look at this great team here," and then put too much pressure on them.
So if they don't win tonight, do we put our jerseys on next Tuesday?
No.
No. How about one of us just wear a jersey?
You do whatever you like.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of people doing whatever they like. For me personally, I said when they string together some wins, I'll be proud and I'll put the shirt on. In the meantime, I know, Coach Green and all the Canucks watch this show.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure on them.
Yes.
They see us here. We're their heroes, of course. And, we're wearing their gear. And it's just too much pressure. There's enough pressure for NHL players as it is. So we're not going to do that to him anymore. Coach Green, the rest of you Canuck guys, we love you. We want you to play your best. No pressure. No pressure.
You know who my favorite new Vancouver coach is?
Coach?
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 Yeah, is the Whitecaps guy. I love that guy.
I didn't know we had such a thing.
What, a coach?
Yeah.
For the Whitecaps?
Yeah.
The soccer team.
Yeah, I know the Whitecaps.
They got the assistant coach to take over, and he's an Italian guy.
For the Whitecaps,
yeah.
Not for the Canucks.
No, for the Whitecaps. I said for the Whitecaps.
You scared me there for a minute.
No.
I'm like, we have a new coach.
No.
That was a Whitecaps coach.
New coach
with the Canucks, and I don't know that, and I'm sitting here thinking I'm a Canucks fan.
No, my favorite new coach is what I said. Right?
I love the Whitecaps too.
Yeah, and this guy's amazing, man. Have you not seen? I guess you haven't seen it, eh? One night they were down to go.
I don't have television,
so I
haven't been able to watch it.
One night.
I've been following it a little bit on the sportscasts.
Yeah.
Not the on-air broadcast of the games, but the talk afterwards. And I did catch actually the end of the last game, the post commentary. So I did hear about coming back from being down a goal.
Yeah. He just went into the dressing room and he slammed on the table and he says, "We're gonna win this game." Right? He says, "We're gonna win this game," and they went out and they won the game. Then they beat one of the toughest teams, and now they're in the playoff spot. And so wow.
Good on the Whitecaps.
Just good on the coach. They know they can rally his team that way. They really like this guy. He's very enthusiastic.
Coach makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, if you're a team like your coach, you'll do a lot and go places. So,
I was a hockey fan all my life. I've mentioned it a few times on the show.
No,
saved my life in many ways.
I played hockey.
Then life progresses and evolves for me, and my path led me to quitting my job and deciding I had to do something about this cannabis prohibition and just how horrible it was. Okay.
No, you're gonna.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not. I know where I am. I love the 420 session. Nothing serious. Nothing really matters enough. And you can laugh at whatever happens. No, what I'm trying to say is that so that happened to me, My son turns 16. He wants to smoke weed with his dad. I'm like, oh my God, now you have to worry about the police. And there's a sign about a protest. Let's go to the protest. Okay, 420 at the art gallery 20 years ago. And small gathering of people there, and that became our thing. We went every year to that and the Cannabis Day and the Global Marijuana March. My son and I became the top volunteers for those events. And so then I quit my job 5 years after volunteering for those events. I have a revelation in doing a small renovation 1 block away that turned into the herb school. I had to quit my job. When I really got to, I've been going 5 years to the pot rallies and I still didn't understand it. I knew that I wasn't a criminal. They shouldn't call me a criminal. That's not very nice. I knew they were ruining lives. But I didn't understand how it came to be. I didn't understand how frickin' wrong it was.
Yeah.
A plant that helps people, you're going to use the criminal law against to stop them from using it? Oh my God. So I had that revelation when I was helping David with the renovation a block over, and it made me quit my job. And, and I mentioned, I think either last show or the show before, about how I had this real dilemma at that moment when I had that epiphany, when I was crying my eyes out and I was deciding I have to only do this now until something good happens and we can stop the carnage. And my first thought was, what am I going to do about hockey? Like, hockey was the other really big thing in my life. Sure, I was a renovation carpenter, that I worked 8 hours or more every day, 5 days a week. But my real life was hockey. I worked so that I could, after work, have a place to sit and watch hockey. And so, I decided right away, I knew right away that this is more important than that. This is way more important than that. And hockey was going to take a back seat.
And the hockey gods made it possible because they had a strike.
And they had a strike that year.
I was listening.
So, I'm glad. That was a test, I was checking to see if you were going to come back next week. And so that was the thing for me, is I had that moment of what am I going to do? And right away I knew it. I thought hockey's going to take a back seat. I still like hockey, but I'm not going to care about hockey like I care about this. This is people's lives being ruined. This is not millionaires entertaining me. And so that's the thing, is that amongst the activist community, activists recognize that we live in a world that has been purposely constructed for us to remain entertained, distracted in so many ways, and sports is one of those. In fact, sports was always a big vehicle for selling booze to begin with. So it's the booze sellers who also don't want cannabis legal, that have been part of that. But there's a bunch of activists that don't appreciate other activists appreciating sport. They think that, you need to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 and a quarter days a year, on this most important topic of let's stop them from ruining people's lives. And I would agree with that, except that nobody can do that. Or maybe no, I don't know. There's no absolutes. Maybe somebody does that. I went pretty hard at it for that first year without there being any hockey to distract me at all. Then I did get a girlfriend, and she distracted me a little bit. And, there was movies that I watched at night that weren't to do with the drug war, but not too many. I got to tell you that most of what I did was
even Scarface.
Everything was about understanding this war against people using drugs and certain drugs.
I used to come and see
but not everything. And what I learned in that first year is that there's a lot of ex-activists. There's a lot of people that put their heart and soul into it, and they got burnt out. Either because they just wore themselves too thin, or because they got so frustrated that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of solid effort into trying to overcome this ridiculous prohibition on nature's best plant to free human beings, and they didn't get very far. It's been, when I quit my job because I had read The Emperor Wears No Clothes, doing that renovation a block over 17 years ago. I'm reading The Emperor Wears No Clothes every time we took a safety meeting. Speaking of safety meetings.
I think you need a bigger topic in there. You're going to suck that one back.
No, I got to heat it up so I can get it out.
Oh, I see. Oh, is that what it is?
They stick in there if you don't get them out right away.
You can't push something that reverse way?
Oh, sure you could.
Okay, there you go.
I broke them doing that, though. If you push the wrong thing in or twist it the wrong way or whatever.
I broke the glass
I love these.
Puffco today.
Gibson's glass, if you like this, and if you want to use it.
They're a little bit longer.
They come with stems. But if you're like me, the stem doesn't last very long. If you're like me, usually the mustache ends don't last very long either. But
probably because your mustache gets in the way.
Well, it's redundant for me, obviously. I mean, it doesn't do for me what it do for somebody who doesn't have a mustache.
I was going to say, I used to come and see you at those protests. I used to be at the art gallery in the audience, and watching you sing "Oh Cannabis" and stuff like that, and Mark throwing out joints, and Mark Clokeed would be with with the gun, right? With the
we did that. I forget if we did that 1 year or 2 years. We actually had the gun.
The Kush Girls. We had the Kush Girls.
We had the Kush Girls for a little while.
Yeah.
Then we had the BC Bud Girls.
Yeah. So I remember that, and now look, here I am.
Wow.
Now I'm sitting beside the person I was watching singing this song.
You've been at it for a long time too, though.
I started doing videos myself, showing people that cannabis wasn't
going to pot rallies, helping out, and lending your voice.
Always, yes.
Always. when you understand the truth of it all, if you're a compassionate
It's not
human
so
being,
hard.
you don't have much choice even.
No.
You know?
No.
I didn't have a choice. I mean, really, for me, it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest issues in our world.
Yeah,
with us thinking that we're in a free country and we're free citizens and we've got public servants.
Our government's
and yet this government has seen fit, before I was even born, to prohibit access to what is not a dangerous plant at all, is the most beneficial plant. And what happened to me was The Emperor Wears No Clothes, David Malmo Levine, going to the protests, listening and looking and learning, and then realizing that, wow, this is like so wrong.
It is.
It can't. How can I can't stand to live in a world that is so wrong.
No.
I don't like that very much. I'm a person, I like reasonableness.
Yeah.
I think there should be a federal minister of reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, make sure everything's reasonable.
Yeah,
Make sure all these other ministries are doing things that are reasonable. We shouldn't be doing unreasonable things. I want to live in a reasonable world. I believe that police were there to protect us. I believe that the courts were fair.
Yeah.
I believe that public servants cared about the public.
They don't.
I grew up believing all those things.
Yep.
I went to church with my family, and the preacher said, give unto Caesar that which is, should be rendered to Caesar, and respect your governments and all of this stuff. And that's what my parents taught me. Mm. And then here I am. I realized that, holy smokes,
they've been lying to us.
They've been lying to us through their teeth. Yeah. And then, you think, well, that's just a preliminary thought. It can't be that bad. I got to look into this more. And the more you look into it, the more you realize, holy smokes, it's worse. Yeah. And it's worse. And it's worse. Yeah. And it keeps getting worse. And how bad is it? It is so bad that with a raging epidemic of overdose deaths and cannabis high-dose edibles being an answer, a non-lethal way out alternative, and we can't get the federal government of Canada to give us any approval to do this in over 13 months of requesting it. And boy, did we request it. Yep. We did not just phone up and say, hey, we'd like to be able to do this. We think it's a good idea. Can we do this? Yeah. No. Yeah. Mr. John Conroy, the very best pot lawyer ever in Canada. He did his very best. He put all of his years of experience into our application to Health Canada. It was bulletproof. It is bulletproof. Yeah. Nobody could ever say no to that without announcing that they're also the devil.
Yeah.
And they can't. And they haven't. And they won't be able to.
And they'd rather use...
But they're not saying yes either. They're using tactics of delay. Every time we contact them, they go, oh, rest assured, Mr. Magnuson and Mr. Conroy, that our team is working diligently on your file every day. Well, any single individual, let alone a team of supposedly smart people that had a half an ounce of brain, would look at our application, and by the time they got to the end, they would have understood. They would be in tears, and they'd go, absolutely, we're helping these people.
Let's get this
Let alone give it a week to let it really sink in. Watch all of the videos that my producer Anil put together of all of those people that are giving their heartfelt personal testimonials about how this helped them in their life. Mm-hmm. No wonder they can't say no. We knew they would never be able to say no. I didn't think that they were just not going to say yes either forever.
So they just delay.
And they delay and they delay.
That's what they're doing with me too.
And then we got COVID. We got COVID.
COVID helped them delay.
And then there's this happens. And then there's that. And then there's an election coming up. And then there's this and there's that. And it's a constant delay. If they wanted to, this is how I always judge everybody. I don't judge them on what they say.
No.
People say lots of things. I judge them on what they do.
Yep.
And what they do tells me what their motivations are. Because if a person wants to do something, they figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. They don't take no for an answer. They don't see an obstacle as ending their pursuit. It's just something to get on the other side of.
Yep.
If a person wants to do something, they figure out how to do it.
They get it done. Yeah.
Unless they're, really up against a brick wall. But, for the most part, if it's doable, they will do it.
Yeah.
And you can see that in their efforts, in their actions, in what it is they say and try to do. And if a person does not want to do something,
they won't.
You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it by how, they got a headache. I've got a bit of a cold coming on right now.
Yeah.
Very busy this week. Give me your number. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
It's so clear to me. I mean, maybe because I've been a student of this myself for my whole life, is really wanting to know where people are coming from. Do you want to help me or do you want to hurt me? I want to know, so I'm going to ask a few questions that you think is just conversation, but I'm going to figure you out.
Yeah.
And I figure people out.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And I'm telling you, in 13 months, what I've figured out about Health Canada, the federal Liberal government, is they don't want to help the people that are dying from this overdose epidemic. They don't even want it to end. They're making money off it. They don't want to let people use cannabis that's going to help them medically. They want to just make money off of cannabis that they can mass produce and sell at higher than prohibition prices. They don't want to help us. They are not our public servants. This is so corrupt. They are a bunch of smiling faces that make you think that they care about you, that say what you want to hear, even though they just said the opposite to the other person they were just talking to, because they know how to tell people what they want to hear, because their whole thing is they're professional electors. They get elected. That's what they're professionals at. And that's why the big businesses give them their money and their support, is because they can get elected. They can lie. They can lie right through their smiling fake smile. They can tell you what you want to hear, and they can get enough votes to win. And that's why these big corporations put their money behind them, because they want those people in power, because they want to be able to manipulate us, to exploit us, to monopolize us, to take advantage of us, and all the rest of the things that big business and big corporations want to do. Because they just want to make money. They don't care about me. It's not personal, except those people that have a personal thing with drug users. Some of those people just hate the idea that I would light this up and inhale it and not light up some legal commercial tobacco and kill myself with that. I'd be fine doing that. These people that hate cannabis users, they smoke cigarettes, they drink coffee, they drink bourbon and beer and wine and all the rest of it. They take pharmaceutical drugs when they got a headache. They do all of these things, you know, but they hate the fact that I'm disobedient, because they're obedient, and they don't want to look like they're not. I don't know what it is, but I do know that I can see by their actions, I can see by what it is that's motivating them, that they hate us, they don't care about us, they care about making money, and if they can hurt us and make money off of us at the same time, well, for them, that's a win-win. And that's what's going on. And I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I think we should all be sick of it. We should all go, no way, man. Not going to put up with this. This is wrong. And, you know, sure, we were born into it, and it was just explained to us, you know, the parents and school and media just explain everything. Here's the world you're living in, you know, and even it's corrupt, but, you know, don't try and do anything about it, because, you know.
I wonder if we've got any 100-year-old pot smokers out there.
Oh, for sure.
You think so?
Oh, hell yeah. And a better question. A better question.
Yeah.
Do we have 100-year-old pot smokers that didn't start until their 90s? and I would say yes to that.
But that means they have to be 100.
No, they started in their 90s.
Okay.
Now they're 100 and they're smoking weed.
Now they're smoking weed. I got you.
Because people in their 90s have aches and pains. And somehow, you know, there's this kind of a disconnect between CBD and THC. People somehow don't seem to realize that CBD is marijuana, just like THC is marijuana, although really it isn't, because although now it is. I got to explain that. Marijuana was not the cannabis plant. It was not all of the other cannabinoids but THC. Marijuana was just THC. If they found you in possession of a cannabis plant, or what they thought was cannabis plant matter, and they tested it, and it didn't come back positive for THC, then it wasn't marijuana, and you were not arrested and charged and all the rest of that, or convicted as a case of that. Marijuana was THC. So cannabis hemp, which is cannabis, but they selectively bred the THC out of it during the Second World War for the war effort, so they could use all the industrial goodness of cannabis without actually producing the horrible, dangerous, killer THC. If that's what you had, then you didn't have marijuana, and then you got off on that. So now they have scheduled CBD, and they have scheduled other cannabinoids, and they're illegal too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But now they also call it cannabis. I don't care what they call it, and I don't mind calling it marijuana. I know there's activists that don't like that, and I usually don't. I usually refer to it as cannabis. But we can own the marijuana term too. You know, we can own that. They don't get to have that. They don't get to, you know, convince other people that it's bad because it's marijuana. We get to stand up there on stage and say, we love marijuana.
Hey, listen, marijuana.
Marijuana is great. Marijuana should never have been against the law. Marijuana is wonderful. So yeah, I don't mind using that word. I'm not contributing to the colloquialist, the colonizationists and all. You know, I get so many people telling me, oh, don't do this and don't do that. I believe in doing what's right, and I believe in doing what I believe is right, because I only got me to trust, really. I have other people that I like them. I think they're great people. I think they're mostly right, and they tell me, you know, this is right or whatever, but, you know, they're not always right. Yeah. I had my son yesterday. We had a mom day, and Monday is mom day. I was so privileged.
Mom days.
So, look at how I bodied all this together. So privileged that I got to be able to go visit my mom. Isn't that nice? I got to visit my mom.
Privileged.
Or is it horrible that for 2 weeks in a row or 3 weeks in a row, whatever it was, I couldn't go and visit my mom? Mm-hmm. Even though I'm careful about things, and she can be careful about things, and she didn't have nothing, and I didn't have nothing, and all the rest of that. Somebody else out there gets to decide, apparently, whether or not I get to see my mom. And in the 3 weeks that I didn't see my mom, she deteriorated quite strongly, because she's on that very steep decline. Yeah. Her memory is losing big time. She wants to know what happened to her husband, and why isn't she in her house, and it's very hard and very sad. But anyway, I got to go see my mom yesterday. And so I get to also spend that time with my son, because I go to Maple Ridge and pick up my son, and then I go to White Rock to see my mom, and then I go back to Maple Ridge, and my son and I go shopping, and we get something to eat, and we talk a lot. He talks a lot. And we were talking about opinion, and I said, Dan, that's just your opinion. And he says, no, it's so-and-so's opinion. I said, and it's not just opinion. Sharing it. And I said, but it is opinion. Yeah. No, this guy's an expert. Okay. So if it's an expert, if he has a whole lifetime of lived experience in this particular field, and he knows it inside and out as far as his understandings go, he has ideas about things within that. But those are still just his opinions. Yep. And within that field, whatever it'll be, there's other experts that have a lifetime of lived experience that believe opposite to that.
Different opinions.
They're all just opinions.
That's the yin and yang of things, right?
Yeah, people are wrong.
Balance, right?
Things are too complicated.
The same way, or it would be really boring.
Yeah, I mean, there's math. There is math.
Oh, they even changed math. Come on.
But there must have been an agreement.
The math that we did is not the math that the kids are doing now, right?
But these, if we called them two, if we combined them with those and we called them two, I am not a criminal. But he certainly was. That's going to be 4. Yeah. So that we can agree on. Yes. That is not opinion. No. There is that which is not opinion. Yes. 100% there's facts. Yes. There is facts. 100%. Yes. But we're talking about opinion here. Yeah. And then so there's varying opinions on topics.
Fact-based opinions.
Well, they're all fact-based opinions. And you're probably going to get a good, correct opinion from an expert in the field. Yes. Probably you are. Yeah. It depends on the topic or what area of it, and there's a bunch of depends in there. Yeah. Depends is in a lot of different things. Yeah.
If they're an old guy, then he might be wearing depends.
By the way, Jerry Martin won't be making it on the show again today. We're very sorry. We missed Jerry. Jerry had someone that needed help, and he had to leave town to go and help them at the last moment. He was coming on the show. That's what Jerry's all about.
Drive safe, Jerry.
So, drive safe, Godspeed, and thank you again for what you do. Jerry is so hard on himself. For any of you who know that, I don't know if you know that, but Jerry is really, really hard on himself. And I've had several years of experience with him, and he certainly doesn't deserve the hardness that he is on himself in anything I've ever seen. I think that I know that he lived a wild life to begin with. He got involved in hard drugs and in the gang scene and in the street scene, and he's not happy about that part of his life. He's never been happy that that's how he turned out. But he got there.
No, that's how he was. It's not how he turned out.
Exactly.
He turned out to be the person that he is today.
And part of the person that he is today is wanting to give back. Yeah. Wanting to make amends. And so he's pretty hard on himself, and yet, this is this great guy that's been doing this fabulous work. And so I don't know why he can't get past it. I think that maybe he was not treated properly when he was being brought up. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. I think that the demons that Jerry has were given to him through parenting or poor parenting. But I don't know that for sure. I don't know that. I'm going to have to ask Jerry about that. It's just that when I see the way he lashes out sometimes, it seems to me the type of a lash out that would be, given to a child, that a child would then continue on with and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I'm going to have to ask him about that. I have no business saying things that I'm not sure of for sure, 100%. But anyway, Jerry is a great guy. And I do want to spend a moment talking a little bit about why Jerry is guest on my show on a regular basis and what that's all about. Jerry is a person who, after a tough time in life, moved back to his small town that he came from in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, and wanted to give back to his community. And one of the ways that ended up happening was in opening a medical cannabis dispensary and allowing the sick people in his area to have access to cannabis. A wonderful thing to be able to do for people in a remote area of the world where they don't have access to cannabis. And so Jerry did that. He tried to do it as best he could. He used all the proper protocols that were designed here in Vancouver for the Compassion Club to try to satisfy government about how dispensaries were operating. He had doctors on board with a confirmation of diagnosis for every client that they had there, and all other strict guidelines in place. He had heard Trudeau talk about how the gray area of cannabis dispensaries needed to be transparent in what they're doing. And so that he tried to be transparent in everything that he did. He kept all of his books up to date. He paid all of his taxes. He gave back the profits both to his community in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, in very profound ways, helping out the boys' clubs, the sports teams, the local fire hall. Lots and lots of things that Jerry did to help his community. Whatever came along that they needed help with, he was there to help them with that. And the other community he helped was the activist community, where he would come to Vancouver and support us in our demonstrations outside of the Allard case, for example, and many other things like that. And doing a lot of what Mark Emery had done for years in giving money to activists to help them. Whenever he heard that an activist had an issue, he would give them money to go and solve that issue. Jerry has been a wonderful guy for a long time. So he opened his dispensary, and for 4.5 years he ran that dispensary. He had over 1,000 people as members. There was only 1,000 people in Whitewood, Saskatchewan. They were not all qualified by their doctors to use cannabis. He was an outpost for cannabis for many of the surrounding towns in the area as well, and helped a lot of people get access to a real life-saving medicine. But legalization came along, and despite Trudeau's promises of the medical people are going to be looked after, and Jerry's hope, and the hope of all dispensary owners, that they would be transitioned into a legal marketplace, the opposite happened. Trudeau decided to spend money and shut them down. Here in BC, we added money, $1 million plus a year, to a unit called the Community Safety Unit. Can you imagine the gall of naming a unit the Community Safety Unit when what they do is deny people access to life-saving cannabis during an opioid epidemic? Like, could there not be a more ironically opposite horrible name for this taxpayer-funded group of goons that go around and steal the medicine that is meant for poor, sick people? But yeah, that's what happened. And so Jerry ended up getting a letter, along with a lot of other dispensary owners, from Health Canada saying, stop what you're doing. Yep. I'll say it again for the benefit of those people who don't watch the show regularly. If you're a dispensary owner and you're illegally helping 1,000 people get access to medicine that is dramatically benefiting their lives, you are not going to stop doing that because your government writes you a letter and tells you to stop doing it, or you will be illegal. You are a person who knew it was illegal, very, very keenly aware of its illegality in setting up your dispensary, in defying the laws, and in daily having to worry about whether or not you were going to come and get busted or not. So Jerry, like most other dispensary owners, did not shut down his dispensary. He couldn't. He couldn't. It's cruel to consider that a person would be able to do that. Who's this government that thinks that a dispensary owner, a kind, compassionate, brave human being who's risking all of what he has and is to provide access to poor, sick people with the cannabis medicine, they're not going to say no to those people. They're going to say no to the government. That's who they're going to say no to. I got this paper that says that I should say no to these 1,000 people. Who am I going to say no to? You're going to say no to the government again, still. Yeah. Of course you are. Of course you are. You couldn't do anything else. And if you did do something else, it would be to then look like you've closed down your dispensary, but make sure that all of your clients somehow come to your own personal home's back door or someplace and get their weed. You're not going to stop helping people. You're going to be driven underground and become that criminal person that these people don't want to be. Dispensary owners don't want to be that criminal person.
Yep.
That's why they opened a store and put a sign up. That's why they write letters to the editors and call open line radio shows and speak at events and do all the things that dispensary owners do. Because they care. And they care about the people that they're trying to help. They don't care about the government. That's very obvious in all of their actions to this point. So for a government to approach somebody like that with a letter saying, stop what you're doing, that is cruel. That is not something that anybody could comply with, and that's outrageous. So of course Jerry didn't shut down. He kept helping the people out, and sure enough, if the RCMP didn't show up and put him in handcuffs and take his stuff away, and not just the stuff in the store, not just the store, they took his home.
Yep.
They took his cars.
Yep.
They took another piece of property that he owned. They took his bank accounts. Jerry didn't just make money from his cannabis dispensary. All the money that he made from his cannabis dispensary went back into the community and into activism.
Yep.
Jerry made money off his tattoo parlor. Jerry made money off of videos that he sold on how to do things. Jerry's a smart businessman, and he made his money honestly. Even his dispensary, I'd have to say he made his money honestly, and then some.
Yeah.
He deserves a medal, not a criminal record. Anyway, this is what happened. This happened a long time ago. In 1 month, it'll be 5 years since that raid on Jerry.
Wow. Next month? November? Wow.
5 years.
Wow.
5 years that they have tortured that man, that they have threatened him, that they have held on to his belongings, and he'll never see his cars again. And he still owes money on cars he owed money on that he doesn't have anymore. He had to pay so much money to lawyers. He has had to endure so much mental trauma by our government. Like I started out talking about how I believed in police.
Yeah.
I believed in the government. I believed that these were public servants that cared about us, and I had to change all of that when I come to the actual truth of it and understanding things. None of that is true, and the farther and deeper you look into it, the more corrupt they all are,
yeah.
The less they care about us. In fact, they care to hurt us. They care to have us die. They want the opioid epidemic. They want people dying. They want people in treatment because they're invested in treatment. And treatment isn't treatment to get people off of opioids. Treatment is treatment to get taxpayer dollars into their pockets.
Yeah.
They want to keep the people addicted because that's how they make money. Yeah. Watch Body Brokers if you don't believe me. Before you put your loved one into treatment, watch Body Brokers. Disgusting. All of it is disgusting. So now Jerry, for coming up in a month, it'll be 5 years since the raid. Over 40 court appearances before he actually got to sit before a judge, in a hotel room, mind you,
yeah.
Looking into a camera, without any supporters around him, which would have been and should have been in a courtroom. Jerry got to have his say because he got to file an affidavit that said his piece. He then got cross-examined on that affidavit and got to verbally tell a judge much of his story. Profound. Absolutely profound.
And he's had a heart attack.
He's had a heart attack from the stress.
Yeah.
He has suffered in such profound ways for all of this time. It's been so hard to watch that. I try to help but how? I try to give him advice, but advice doesn't do much.
No.
I'm there for him, but he doesn't want people around him when he's feeling like that. And,
yeah.
Nothing seems to work. He's read so many self-help books. He's on a path of psychedelic healing.
Yeah.
And there's been some benefits to that.
Yes, because from what I remember of old Jerry to new Jerry today, yes, there's been some definite
he's still
benefits.
here.
Yep.
He actually tried suicide.
Yep. I have too.
And he's still here fighting, and he's still here going ahead with it, and he's still here, continuing on. And there's probably going to be an appeal to the decision, whatever it might be. We don't know yet. Jerry and two co-applicants have launched a constitutional challenge against the federal government's model of access to cannabis for medical purposes through an online licensed producer non-medical program, and the fact that people need access through storefronts. They need low barrier access. They need access to all of the different types of cannabinoids that are available to help people with their numerous varying conditions. They need all of that. And so that's what that constitutional challenge is about. It is happening before the court case. It might still happen, depending on what the findings are with the judge in Jerry's court case. there may still be proceedings against those people for, you know, the crime of providing access to cannabis. You know, drives me nuts. But yeah, he's still here. He's still fighting, and he's still trying hard. Good on him for that. He does try real hard.
Yep.
And so we'll see what happens on that. It's coming up. There will be some submissions on November 6th. There will be some final submissions, and hopefully these will be the final submissions. We were supposed to have already had them twice now. But there's things that come up that need to be addressed, and so there's more need for more stuff. And then,
yeah.
So November 16th and 17th will be the last submissions, hopefully, to a judge who says she's already going to be pretty much up to speed on the rest of what she's been presented with, and that her decision should be fairly quickly coming. We'll see what happens on that, and we'll see what decision is made on that. And that will likely affect our case as well in our application.
Everybody's just sitting there waiting.
They shouldn't. Health Canada doesn't need to wait to see what the courts do with Jerry and Pat and Justin. They should just look at our application and go, oh yeah, we will at least temporarily support these people and figure out how to get them licenses.
Until you know better, yeah.
So, you know, that should be happening. Maybe it happens tomorrow. I went through several months where I was posting every day. Yeah. Maybe today will be today.
I haven't done that for a while.
I stopped doing that after several months of it. I haven't done it for a long time now. But maybe tomorrow. It won't be today. We're already closed back.
People just got their jobs. It won't be tomorrow.
We are going to obviously be contacting this new minister, Carolyn Bennett, of Federal Health and Addictions Ministry, and hopefully we can get some traction and some action happening really quickly here. We will see. So that's what's going on with Jerry. Yeah. With respect to his court case, in any case. We're waiting to see. We're all holding our breath. And in the meantime, anything you can do, as always, I always recommend that people be active in trying to solve these issues. It's a great way to live your life. Better than banging your head against a wall. Better than just sitting and complaining. Is to write a letter. If you're going to complain, put it in Word. Put it down in writing and send it off in an email. Send it off in a snail mail. You know, whatever you want to do. But do stuff. It's important for us. It's important for you. It's a great way to live your life. There's things that need to be done, and there can't be a better issue, in my opinion, than the need for low barrier access to cannabis for poor and suffering Canadians, and for everybody for that matter. Why not have low barrier access? There's really no reason that you wouldn't have low barrier access. And maybe for a moment I'll talk a bit about that other thing that I talk about a lot, which is that the price of cannabis doesn't need to be where it is. Yeah. But having said that, and I say that because it doesn't have to cost that much to produce cannabis. It doesn't cost anywhere near as much as what the government wants to charge you for cannabis, than what Prohibition charged you for cannabis. The Prohibition prices were because people could lose their homes and their bank accounts and their cars and their livelihood and all the rest of that. So if you were going to sell somebody cannabis, you needed to sell it for like a whole bunch more money than it was really costing to get it and grow it. And that's just the way it is. But Prohibition was supposed to bring an end to those high prices. But the legalization in Canada has maintained even higher than Prohibition prices. So cannabis doesn't cost that much to grow. No. If you're growing indoors and you're using all the best equipment and you are an expert grower and you know what you're doing, your services are in demand, people want your cannabis and they want to pay good money for it. In many cases, they don't mind paying good money for it. And I am not against that. There can be high-end cannabis stores, there can be high-end cannabis. Charge what you want. People pay what they want, and that's not for that. That is not my issue. They are not my enemy. I am not their enemy. I think there should be stores that are beautiful, that have $10 grams and all the rest of it. If that's what people are willing to pay, and that's what they think their cannabis is worth, then fine. That's just the marketplace. But the truth is that even with all the best equipment, an indoor crop of under a couple hundred plants costs about $500 per pound to produce the first crop, and half of that for the subsequent costs. This has all been analyzed, and there's papers about this. I looked into it. About $250 a pound after that, because there was the initial investment of all of your equipment. Now there's also the expertise of the growers that comes into that. There's the people that really pay attention to so many different facets of growing cannabis that are very good at all those different facets, and their cannabis is superior cannabis, and they deserve a better buck for it. And there's a market for it, and that's just fine. That'll always be there. But there should be cannabis that's grown professionally indoors for $350 a pound that is good quality cannabis. Maybe not up to the speeds of the real connoisseurs who, really hit all the different fucking marks.
Yeah.
I didn't need to swear there, Andy Barbie. I'm sorry about that.
I always got to mention Auntie Barbie.
I love my Auntie Barbie.
If you didn't swear, you wouldn't be able to mention her every week. So there you go.
That might be why I do that. I've loved Auntie Barbie my whole life. She's been so wonderful.
I got to meet Auntie Barbie one day.
I hope you do. She's a great human being. I've always loved her a lot. But yeah. And here's the other wonderful side of it. You don't have to grow indoors. You don't have to buy the lights and pay the hydro and all the fans and dehumidifiers and all the rest of it.
Water it.
You might have to buy some fencing, but you don't even really need to do that depending on where you're growing and how you're doing it. You just need some decent ground. You need some water, which nature provides.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of hybrid greenhouses, inexpensive hybrid greenhouses, where is a middle ground between just plain outdoor and these really sophisticated indoor growing facilities. So if you're growing outdoor, the cost analysis on that is about $4.50 a pound.
Wow.
Yeah.
I grew about 2 ounces this year.
So at $4.50 a pound to the farmer, the marketplace should be paying under $10 a pound for that cannabis.
Wow.
Yeah. 100% markup.
We're not.
And in fact,
it's like about $800.
In fact, with this particular vegetable, there's not the same risk of rot as there is with many of the other ones. They just go bad.
Yeah.
If you handle the cannabis properly, if you dry it properly before you bring it to the marketplace, there's little to no risk that it's gonna rot.
Yeah.
There's little to
it
no
might turn to powder
waste
after
as far
years.
as
It's all dried out.
But probably that's not going to happen. And if that did happen, you'd just use it as an extract. You'd extract the cannabinoids and use it in an edible or something else.
Yeah.
So the vendor is not going to stand the potential loss that they do with apples and bananas and other things that they lose a percentage of all the time, because people will pick all the best ones until there's the not so attractive ones left, and then by that time those ones aren't very good anymore, and out they go. It doesn't happen with cannabis. So that's my point there, is that you can produce cannabis cheaply. The government should be allowing, oh my God, they should have nothing to do with it, other than to make sure it happens. The government should make sure that there's cannabis for those people who can't afford the expensive connoisseur cannabis, for people that need it, that they're not wanting to use cannabis because they like how it feels on a Friday night.
Yeah.
They're in serious debilitating pain. They've got a form of epilepsy that no other pharmaceutical drug can touch. They've got numerous other things going on with them that they need to use cannabis on a daily basis. They should not be forced into the black market or into going to a government store where they're going to buy inferior non-medical cannabis for super high prices that the average person or even the average rich person can't really afford on a daily basis.
The only people that get high on the government stuff are the people who have never been smoking and just started. I have so many people that I know that have been long-time smokers and said, "Oh, I've gone to the government store, but it didn't do anything for me." Right? And that's because they don't have the potencies that we have that we've been smoking, right?
I think that they're required to keep the potency below a certain level, for one thing. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing there.
It might make us crazy. And we might go start robbing and killing people if we keep it really
Is that
high.
what it is?
I don't know.
Because
something about
you know what
that.
I thought it was? I didn't realize that they were actually really caring about society and the fact that, if it's potent cannabis, we might all become violent. What I thought it was is that they don't really care about the cannabis consumer. They don't really want cannabis to be a valuable thing for people. They can probably sell it in a way where it's not that great. Yeah. And so, it won't be so great. Maybe cannabis, if they wanted to sell it properly, could be really great. The government should be up on the rooftops going, "Hey, people, we've got this plant. We can make a topical out of this plant that'll cure the scabs on your arm in a week." Yeah. We have a person here, there's actually a couple of them, that with the CSP that had incredible, open sores, scabbing and open sores all up their arm. There's pictures on it. Go to the Cannabis Substitution the Vancouver Cannabis Substitution Program Facebook page, and you can see pictures of this one person's arm, where in 1 week of using a topical cream made with cannabis by our previous head baker, Mary McCarty, But it doesn't matter who makes it.
Yeah.
I mean, cannabinoid topicals are incredible miracle cures for skin lesions and things like that. And now this gentleman's arm is completely, it's just like flesh. It's just like skin.
No.
They're all gone.
A week later.
A week later.
Wow.
And somebody, when they saw it like partway through, and he already was understanding how quickly it was healing, they said something, well, you need to go to a doctor. And he said, these people are my doctor.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Cannabis is his doctor.
Yeah.
Cannabis should be all of our doctors. And if the government would simply tell the truth about cannabis and support its supply for low barrier access, then we would be so much better off as a society and as human beings, because so many people are suffering from so many things that cannabis can help them with. Just insomnia alone. Yeah. Just insomnia alone is such a huge, huge problem for so many Canadians that costs us workplace hours and family time and mental illness. It is just incredible how the toll that takes on our society. Yeah. And cannabis is a cure for insomnia, for most people.
Maybe the government knew that if our generations were smoking cannabis, there'd be less wars. And then they wouldn't be able to make money on wars.
Well, and when you say governments,
right? So,
you see, I see the government as simple puppets. Yeah. They are an intermediary group of puppets that are being operated by the financial elite. The unethical corporate elite of this world have worked hard to get solid access to governments so that they can get policies that support their bottom line profits. Yeah. That's who we're up against in all of this.
It's sad.
It's criminal.
It's criminal, yeah. Wow, it's 5:12.
I know.
Time's going by.
We're going outside fairly shortly.
All right.
There was something that just came to mind, though, that I'm going to try to get back and comment a bit on, but I lost it for a second. So we'll just have a little puff.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes back.
We'll see if it comes back.
We'll do a little musical interlude here.
Dun, 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 dun. It didn't come back.
Oh, wow.
But, it's all part of what we talk about all the time here.
Yes.
And there's just so many facets of it that, that we're up against.
Well, what are you doing about it?
Well, we're trying to do lots of things.
Says the producer.
We run this show to try to educate people for sure about all of these different things and what's wrong and why it's wrong and how to help. And I probably don't stress that enough, and maybe I should have a whole bunch of numbers that we put out there, but you can find these things, right?
Get a whiteboard.
There again, if you're motivated, if you want to help, you'll figure it out. If you don't, you won't understand that you could probably just Google in, who's Canada's new health minister and how do I contact her or anything like that. But if you want to do it, it can be done, and it's fun, and it's easy, and it's very, very rewarding. So, please take the time, and in this case especially, because what we really are doing about it, I've had a lot of different plans, and I did now just remember what I wanted to talk about. I love it how that happens. It's been 10 years since the release of the movie Still Trippin', the Trans-Canada Highway.
Oh, really? Oh, 10 years.
10 years.
Wow.
So, and right around this time, like just within the last couple of, I think a week ago was the release date 10 years ago. Still Trippin', the Trans-Canada Highway. You can find that on YouTube. There's a bunch of Still Trippin' there that is some other comedian that has a road show that he called Still Trippin'.
Okay.
But if you put in Still Trippin', the Trans-Canada Highway full movie, you'll come up with this movie. It's 10 years old now, but it actually is still completely relevant.
Yeah.
The point of the movie, the whole theme of the movie that we made, and it's a movie where I go with a film crew across Canada in several different forms. We planes, trains, and automobiles, and boats, and lots of other things. And we had an RV for a while there, and had a smashing good time. That's for damn sure. That movie, the theme was, why is cannabis still illegal? Mm-hmm. 10 years ago, there was so much good reason for cannabis not to be illegal that it didn't make any sense. So the whole theme of the movie, and we went across Canada interviewing activists, we interviewed police, we interviewed government, we interviewed a whole bunch of people in this movie, and trying to get to the bottom of why is cannabis still illegal. And spoiler alert, those of you that don't want to know the end before, have now had an opportunity to shut it off.
Turn down
Spoiler alert, the reason cannabis was still illegal 10 years ago is because it was so valuable. That was the real reason for it, and that's a pretty clear case can be made for that. And here we are 10 years later, and we could still make the case, why is there still illegal cannabis?
Valuable.
You know, now the wording's changed just a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as, why is cannabis still illegal, but why is there still illegal cannabis?
Yeah.
And the reason there's still illegal cannabis is because cannabis is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's still the same answer. We could do another movie.
The government would rather be smoking tobacco and drinking alcohol than smoking something that can prolong your life
Right?
and make you feel better.
Well, I mean, here's another thing. Our government, I mean, there used to be an issue with alcohol, another mind-altering drug that the government decided they would get involved with. And the reason that they said they were getting involved with it was because people were becoming violent on the use of alcohol. It was costing our society in numerous ways due to job loss and family, domestic violence and all these other things. And so they said they were going to, you know, legalize alcohol to save the children. You know, and really what it was is that alcohol was a big threat to the Rockefellers' fuel investments. That ethanol fuel is a competitor for ancient fossil fuel, that you can grow your fuel. And ethanol fuel provided by cannabis is 10 times more efficient than that from corn, which is the source they typically use. And so the Rockefellers, wanting to maintain their monopoly of selling fossil fuels to people, went to war against ethanol fuel, and that was alcohol. Alcohol is ethanol. And so they had the temperance movement, the women's temperance movement, lobby the government to ban alcohol.
Yeah.
And even then, it wasn't like with cannabis prohibition where, you know, you weren't allowed to grow it and you weren't allowed to sell it and you weren't allowed to have it. Even having a small amount of it could get you jail time with cannabis. With alcohol, you could have it, you could drink it, you could be drunk.
Right.
You just couldn't cross state lines with it. You couldn't sell it out of a store. But they managed to put that in there. And then 13 years later, with all the illegal alcohol being now produced everywhere, and with most of that illegal alcohol that was being produced on farms for farm equipment to run, that's what they were using it for, much more for vehicles than for personal consumption.
Yeah.
And the Rockefellers, feeling that they're losing their monopoly, they then again funded the temperance movement to go to Congress and to save the children, make alcohol legal. And the point is that the government took over from Al Capone and the other gangsters that were selling alcohol and making a fortune off of it.
Yeah.
So the government became the new alcohol dealers.
Yeah.
And they maintained as high as ever prohibition pricing.
Yeah. And still do to this day.
And still do to this day.
Yeah.
And it's such a huge conflict of interest that the government, you could, you know, take out government, put the new Al Capone. So the new gang of alcohol distributors has now gotten total control over our society. They collect taxes off of everybody just to run their show. And they're using some of those taxes, not just for their mansions in the Caribbean and yachts and planes and shit, but they're actually using it to make sure that nobody can use this other naturally grown alternative to the buzz of alcohol, cannabis.
Yeah.
And now the gang that's doing it is no longer Al Capone, it's Trudeau and his cartel.
Yeah.
And they're using our money and money that they're making off of the outrageously high price of their cannabis to put down everybody else's cannabis and ability to grow and trade cannabis.
I wonder if his mom is still using cannabis.
Probably. Why wouldn't she be?
Well, I don't know. She's pretty old now,
I'm not a betting man.
No.
But I'll bet you she's got at least CBD products.
Yeah.
At least.
Yes,
and
probably
THC products as well.
Yeah.
And if any smart person knows that it's the entourage of cannabis that works. You know, these pharmaceutical companies, what they do is they isolate active compounds, molecules within the herbs and the plants that we've been using for medicine for millennia. They can isolate the active ingredient and then they can synthesize it. They can make it out of other materials.
Yeah.
And that's what they patent and then sell to us to basically combat one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So if you got something wrong with you, you go to your doctor. He's got a pill that works for that thing.
Yeah.
And if you've got 6 things, then you're going to get 6 pills that are going to work for those different things. They're all just isolated compounds. Mother Nature is so far ahead of human medicine. Like, she's been treating life on this planet for billions of years. And the cannabis plant, the most medicinal plant for humans and other animals, vertebrates on this planet, has 400 chemicals. They're all working in unison together. Over 100 of them are cannabinoids. There's all the terpenes and all the rest of it as well. And all of them together work to deal with all of our problems, to supplement our endogenous endocannabinoid system that maintains homeostasis and balance, as Glenn just said, over all of the other 15 systems within the human body.
And we don't have to take 100 pills.
And this one that's targeted, the synthetic targeted for this, isn't going to cause 5 other things to go wrong with you that they will then have other pills for. You know, do we get the scam yet? I mean, really? Do we want to give these, you know, these gods that are cloaked in their white robes that have their stethoscope and their pad that they write in strange form and give it to you, and you take it to someone else who has all of these things, and they look at the strange thing on the paper and give you some, and there you go. Have we not figured out this scam yet? They're scamming us, people. I mean, sure, there's some good pharmaceuticals. Lucky for them there are, you know? Because I have to say that.
Yes.
You know?
There are some good stuff.
There's some good pharmaceuticals. There's some stuff that works pretty good for you know, the thing that you're taking it for, and all the rest of that. But realistically, if you're living a balanced life, if you're eating the proper nutrients, and if you're not eating the proper nutrients, within the proper nutrients would be way more of the essential fatty acids than what we get in our diets. Yeah. And our body's immune system uses those essential fatty acids to produce those mimics to the cannabinoids that are our indigenous cannabinoid system. So if your diet is everything that you need, that should be all that you need. If not, you can supplement it with cannabis. You can supplement your endogenous cannabis system with cannabis. So, you know, do you need toxic, harsh pharmaceutical drugs with all of its side effects? Or can you just heal yourself with proper thoughts, proper nutrition, and proper supplements from nature? You know. Anyway, there you go.
Anyways, yes.
So,
all right.
I got to everything I wanted to get to, I think.
Yeah, you got her.
I'm going to do a little recap just as I update everybody on the Cannabis Substitution Program, and then we're going to go outside and check in with those people, and hopefully this time it works. I'm sure it will. We've done, I don't know, 50 or more shows from this location, and going outside every time. We've only had the issue, I think, twice with the camera dying.
That's all right. And I'll see you on Sunday at Halloween.
You're racing home to watch the Canucks.
Well, I'm going to go home. Yes, I don't know if we're going to race because there's traffic.
No, you can't race.
I know.
I meant racing that, you know.
TV there, the Canucks game going to be on.
I meant racing that you've got to quickly get out of this chair, get into your car, get into the traffic, and then sit and calmly listen to the pregame show.
I know, eh?
Well, you contemplate how to end prohibition.
Yeah.
You can do both of those things.
All right, we'll try.
We'll try.
That's hard homework.
Well, not if you have our heart, Glenn, because even while you're watching hockey, you can't help but think about some things that might help end this ridiculous war against people's choices for how they help themselves.
We'll
see you next week. Thank you so much for coming. As always, well over 100 times we've had Glenn join us for the 420 session, and that's always awesome. Check out CannaMatch.ca, by the way. We didn't talk about that at all, but we usually want to say a little bit about that. CannaMatch.ca is a company that Glenn founded to help connect people. Not just for dating, but it's absolutely a place where you could swipe right or left and find the love of your life. But more importantly, and I don't know if you swipe on his thing or not, you probably do. But more importantly, it's a way to connect with other people that are like-minded with respect to cannabis. And especially if you're new in town or traveling around and you want to know where you can maybe find a hookup that doesn't involve the government swag, because, you know, we don't want to support them and what they're doing with their tax dollars and the money that they're making off that legal cannabis. They're continuing to hurt our families. So, yeah, if you want to know how to find proper green market cannabis, then that's another way to find it. So good on Glenn for doing that. We have been very disconnected through all of these latest world events. The pandemic certainly probably by far and away the biggest thing that has separated our community here. But legalization had a lot to do with that as well. The so-called fake legalization that we've been offered here in Canada has done a lot to split up the activist community, as many people who've been fighting for legalization want to believe in legalization. They want it to work. They're offered opportunities within the legal framework that they feel that can help move the situation forward, because nobody's happy about the way legalization is. Not the people working in the stores, not the people owning the stores, and certainly not you know, the cannabis community as a whole. So we have been very divided as activists, and we need to find ways to get together. Glenn has CannaMatch.ca, which is a good way to do that. We have other protests and things that we put on here in Vancouver. We got this one coming up in 1 week on Sunday, Halloween at the Vancouver Art Gallery. And there's probably other events elsewhere as well. And I know that there's other protests and other things that go on. And we need to continue to do all of that and continue to remain as connected as we can, because this war on us is not over by any means. And the very attempt to disconnect us is what is their strategy in this. So let's not allow that to happen. At this point, we're going to go out and see what's happening with the Cannabis Substitution Program. The Cannabis Substitution Program is a program that was started in response to the city of Vancouver banning edibles from the dispensaries that they were then licensing, and the overdose epidemic that has resulted in so many deaths that could be answered, at least in part, through having high-dose cannabis edibles and cannabis in general easily available to people. And so that's what this is all about. Almost 5 years ago now, coming up in February, so we're not there yet, but it has been well over 4.5 years. The response to those two things, the overdose epidemic and the regulating of dispensaries to not allow for edibles to be sold, resulted in the program being put together where we just handed out for free. We got the city on board. We told the VPD what we were doing. We got the local harm reduction groups involved. VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, agreed to allow us to use their space. And so for 3.5 years, we used their space twice a week, giving out about 300 care packs at a time, and helping people get off of the street drugs, and having great success with that. Such success that it was noticed by City Council. It only took them 2.5 years and about 50 articles coming out talking about the efficacy of cannabis, along with the safety of cannabis, by the way, that the City Council decided they would support low barrier access. So that was great. We met with them, had an understanding. We would get a storefront, move in, start providing cannabis to people, and the way we had been doing plus more. And that they would support us. They would come and see what we were doing, and if they liked what we were doing and felt it was meeting the needs of the community, then they would support us. But instead, the city staff didn't show up. City licensing showed up. They didn't even know about the motion passed by council. They said, you're just a dispensary, and you can't be a dispensary without a license from the province. And so they threatened us, and they threatened our landlord. We weren't going to stop, but the landlord eventually, even though he didn't want to evict us because he liked what we were doing, he had agreed with what we were doing, his lawyer said he should probably do that, and eventually he did. So after just about 5 months, we went before a judge who decided that he wouldn't help us by giving us 6 months to get our licenses in place. He said he didn't think we could do it in that time, and he was right. It's been over a year. We still haven't got it. But he also made the ridiculous comment that he wouldn't support what we were doing because we had unclean hands. Unclean hands. That by risking breaking the law to help suffering people have their lives saved, because the law is unjust and the means requires doing that. For that, we had unclean hands. Well, Mr. Justice Majawa, you have blood on your hands because of that at this point, and probably you had it on there long before that as well. As do all the judges in North America who have upheld this ridiculous and immoral attack on free people's rights and freedoms. To call it a crime to have possession of some plant matter because you're not sleeping well, or you're in pain, or you want to have a little bit of fun, is not the business of any government in a free country. And if it was their business would not be to prohibit you doing those things. It would be to support you in doing those things. So we operate this program in the face of its illegality. But we don't like that. And we've been trying hard to be legal, to be licensed, to be able to provide cannabis, low barrier access to people in a storefront, just like any other business would have their products for people to have. That's what we want. And so we've applied for it. When we first found out that we were facing eviction, and that the licensing department was not going to go along with the councillor's motions. John Conroy stepped right in and took over and has put together this incredible application that we filed over a year ago now with the Health Canada and with the Federal Health Ministry, although now they've changed. As of today, there's a new health minister and a new Ministry of Health and Addictions, which is great news, I think, for us. We'll try to pursue that. We put in that application along with an emergency request from the Health Minister of Canada, Patty Haydu, for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to get a license from the City of Vancouver. A license would allow us to have a bank account. It would allow us to run a business and allow us to not have to worry about being arrested and having our products seized and all the other things that we face here since not being legitimate. But it's taken all this time, and there's really no end in sight, although if we keep trying, we have to be one day closer to getting what we are asking for, and I do firmly believe that it will happen. But we need the help of everybody who can write a letter, make a phone call, talk to a politician, let the media know, and all the rest of that. And in the meantime, we did get evicted from the space. We're still sitting in it. We still get to pay rent here. We just don't get to operate it as a store yet for over a year, or coming up right up on a year. We bought an RV because that was the answer. We had to do something. By that time, we had been 5 months at this location. By that time, the project of just giving away cannabis edibles and care packs had morphed into a program where everybody was registered as members and they got to choose 420 milligrams every 4 days of high-dose edibles to help them. We couldn't just disappear from this location. We couldn't go back to Vandu. There was an incident the last day at Vandu where members in our lineup were pepper sprayed. There'd been increasing tension between the local dealers of the hard drugs and with what we were doing there. And I was not going to go back and subject the poor people of this area to having to line up for hours again, many times in inclement weather, and in the end days with the threat of violence. I was not going to do that again. So the answer, the solution, was to get an RV and park it out front of the store, and then everybody would know where to find us, and they could still come and get their 420 milligrams. We have almost 300 people that come here every 4 days to get their 420 milligrams. And we have a whole bunch of other people that had gotten used to us being in the neighborhood that aren't part of the program that could access cannabis through our Healing Wave Dispensary collaboration that was part of the low barrier access. And so here we are, going back into another winter in the RV, and we'll go and do that in just a moment. But before we get outside, I want to do what I was doing outside here first now, because I waited last week and we got cut off abruptly, and I didn't get to mention that we have other cannabis substitution programs that are operating across Canada. And kudos to the people that are involved in that. I can't tell you how much it warms my heart that there's other people that have taken it upon themselves to help get people access through our program and have joined our ranks and will be part of this force of the cannabis substitution program in enforcing the government to allow that to happen. We have right away, about 6 months after starting this program here in Vancouver, one of the board members at Vandu took the idea to Victoria, and a group there, a similar group to Vandu here called Solid, they started providing cannabis to people, high-dose edibles, and they've been doing that ever since. So they're into almost over 4 years now that they've been doing it there. A couple of years ago almost, a good friend of mine in Halifax, Chris Backer, liked what we were doing here, saw the need in his community, and he started the cannabis substitution program there. And it's never missed a time. They're out there once a week. There's hundreds of care packs. I think it was 207 he gave out yesterday in Halifax there. They keep the neighborhood clean. They've had conversations with the local governments and police a long time ago now. They're not interfered with at all, and their program continues to be a wild success in Halifax. In London, Ontario, Mary McCarthy, who was our head baker here for a long time in Vancouver, for family reasons, but went back to Ontario, and she started her own cannabis substitution program there. They're 6 months now or something like that. It's incredible. Hundreds of people showing up there. They do it every Tuesday. And I've got an interesting news bit from what's going to go on there. Mary has successfully put that program together and attracted good people that are invested in making that happen. And she has now decided to take an opportunity for her family to go back to Winnipeg, or come halfway back towards Vancouver and live in Winnipeg for a while. And she, of course, is going to start a cannabis substitution program in Winnipeg. So anybody in Winnipeg who hears this, there's a great opportunity to get involved in a wonderful program and to help out a fantastic woman who has really done great things in helping our movement and in helping people in general, not just since her involvement with the cannabis substitution program, but for many years. Mary did wonderful work in helping people within her community use cannabis for medicine. And so these things are going on. There's also a few others that are springing up here and there and that have been doing things. I know Jason LaFasse has been doing wonderful things, and Ward Taylor has been helping out and trying to get his thing going, and others as well. So kudos to all the people that are trying to help, and I wanted to mention that that's all going on. William Hicks, I believe, in London is going to take over along with another fellow, I think his name is Chris, and a baker named Bev. Wonderful to have you people on board. I can't wait to get to know you. And thank you for wanting to continue the good work that's been started there by Mary in London, Ontario. For all the people that donate, that's how this works. The Cannabis Substitution Program is all done through donations and volunteers. Nobody takes a dime, and nobody benefits other than that we're all helping people. And that's the whole point of it. We are a vehicle for people who want to help out in this overdose epidemic that's going on. And we're very happy to be able to do that. And for people that would like to get involved, we would love to have you. We could always use more donations. We could always use a greater ability to help people. We have almost 300 people here. We've had to cap it at that as far as full-fledged members go until we really are solid about where our funding is coming from and where our donations are coming from. We've got really good donators here in Vancouver that keep the program going, but we're not comfortable enough to really start including more members, and haven't been for several months now. We have a couple of when certain cases come along. It's on a kind of a case-by-case basis. We have included more people, and we want to continue to do that when we feel we can, and we have. But we don't turn anybody away either. There's the people that aren't members of the program that come to our RV, and they are many. There's always a 100 milligram edible for them, or a 30 milligram edible for them, depending on their tolerance and what they want. There's always a free joint every day for everybody that needs it. And once again, all because of donations and people that are helping us. So thank you to everybody who does that. Please continue. And for those that would like to, please do. Let's go see what's going on outside. Although it's not raining right now, it is back to kind of rainy and blustery here in Vancouver. We get used to it here. Careful now. This is our ganja mobile, the Healing Wave RV. It goes by so many names in the neighborhood. It has served us very well. It's a little bit cramped, but it's cozy. And we like it, although we would sure like to be back in the store. Hi, Jen. How's it going in there?
Good.
That's good.
How are you?
I was just going to head to the back door there, but I thought, maybe we'll say hi to you first. This is your little station. This is where everybody comes to see what we have, I guess, eh? How's the day been today?
Not too bad. We've had some new people today. We've had lots of regulars today. John brought some muffins.
I saw it.
Some cookies.
Great.
It's been a good little day.
Cool. So, and from here, show us the box of muffins. So this is our box of muffins. Although it starts out full.
Well,
and then
there was some left over that didn't fit in the container, so they ended up in a bag.
I see. We have these supplied by John Murray, and he's been doing that for a long time. They're 100 milligrams each, and they help a lot of people, right?
Yep. A lot of people love them.
Yeah, they come back and tell us how great they are. And then we've got Michael's cookies. Do we have any of those handy? So this is from Michael, the Cookie Monster. He approached me within just a few months of starting the program, so it's been well over 4 years now. Well over 60,000 cookies later. 60,000 cookies later. And these cookies are only 30 milligrams, which is a good dose for someone who's not got a high tolerance. And they're also full of all kinds of really good healthy things, but no nuts. So he's really conscious of the needs down here that people have for nutrition and health, and a wonderful person. He calls himself the Cookie Monster. I think he's more of an angel than a monster. So let's go see what happens at the back door. It only opens when you use the secret knock. No, that's not true. Any knock will get it open for you. Hi, Andrew. How are you, sir? So people arrive at this door, what happens?
They get, if you're on my list of members, you get 420 milligrams of edibles.
Cool. How does that work? They just know what you have, or do you show them?
I tell them what I got. I got some of this.
It's a nice looking tray.
I have some tinctures here. I have 1,500 milligrams here of some full spectrum oil. Same with this one. I just had a lot of, this is 1-to-1. A lot of people have been taking the 1-to-1. It's 250 milligrams of THC and 250 milligrams of CBD.
Nice.
I just had somebody come to the door who was afraid of 250 milligrams of CBD.
Oh yeah?
I mean of THC.
THC, right?
He says, I like the CBD, but how do I handle the THC?
Well, you try it and find out, I guess.
I have cookies from Joe Pepper at 100 milligrams.
Right on. Those are very popular.
I have some gummies here, right here, some marijuana leaf gummies.
Green Wilderness.
That's 100 milligrams right there at 20 milligrams each. I got some Gorilla Ganjas.
Beautiful. We have 4 different ones of those.
This is sativa, half indica, half CBD. This is pure CBD, pineapple. This one here, black cherry, is half indica and half CBD. And this is the one everybody likes. It's full indica, 80 milligram indica. It's pretty strong.
Fabulous company that have been helping us out for many years in such profound ways, but they're also very, very popular amongst cannabis edible eaters. They're available in many of the different illegal dispensaries around town, and they've done some fabulous work with their Gorilla Ganja line of helping activists to get access for people.
The most popular one here. I got some cubes here.
More Green Wilderness.
50 milligram cubes. I put 2 in a
Also
bag.
a
That's
long
100 milligrams. Most what people like. I got some brownies here.
From Roberta.
Yeah.
Cookies from Robert.
I have cookies right here. I have some double chocolate ones.
That's a cannabis cop, by the way.
And then I have some chocolate chip and double chocolate, and they're 100 milligrams each. 100 milligrams each. I have some, I got some pills here. I have the most popular ones, the 50 milligram THC pills. These are the most popular ones. Everybody likes them. I got some, I got 50 milligram Keith pills that we made.
Very nice.
Right? People like those. These are 5 milligram pills. Just right inside. 5 milligrams. We have people that are light dose and we have people that are high dose, right?
Yeah, so we got the 5 milligram, we got the 50 milligram.
Yes,
And you got 250, so anything that then someone could need.
We have to have that for people because there are many people that need that much. I mean, if they've been using the hard drugs,
I also
you know,
have,
in many cases they need a pretty high dose to
I have a lot
get
of these given away.
Carly's stuff.
This is 250 milligrams right there, the whole package.
And broken up into smaller pieces,
Yeah,
so
I've
it's
had a
also
few of
easier
those
to
given
manipulate
away.
that way as well.
Popular.
Yeah.
We started to be, so I hope everybody's using it the right way, what they're supposed to, you know, because it can
That's
sure
all
help.
we can hope.
It can help. I can tell you that for sure from experience.
Yeah. If they don't eat too much, then it can be a really good experience. At the right dose for a person, it really does help you in your life. And the right dose could be microdosing too, where you don't even really feel much of anything, but you are in a better mood and your well-being is improved, but you don't really notice much. So from microdosing to macrodosing into the thousands of milligrams, all of that needs to be available for people because there's that whole range of people with different needs for sure.
Because the other drugs aren't going to save you. No. You'll get lost in the other ones, and these ones will save you. Come down here.
Overall, you're pretty satisfied with how grateful people are to get what they're getting?
Oh, sure. I got 266 people on my list right now.
Yeah.
And then on my waiting list, I have 250 people. Right? So you know how many people want to get off their stuff?
Yeah.
They finally realize they want to get off after 20, 30 times they say it. 40, 50 times they say it. It's all down here.
Yeah.
You get lost.
Yeah.
This will save you.
Well, thanks. We'll see you when we come back to the side,
Thank
Andrew.
you very much, guys. Cheers.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
How is it going in here?
Hi as always.
High. It's going high. It's one of the drawbacks of this job is that we have to do a lot of on-site testing of things. It's important that we understand what it is that we're giving to people, unlike Health Canada. Mr. Seguin, Benoit Seguin, I wonder, have you ever used cannabis, sir? You know, that's a question that I wonder lots of times. These people that have made laws and now they're making rules and regulations about cannabis use and consumption and what we can have access to and what we can't. Are they cannabis consumers? Are they people that have had lived experience with this particular substance and the people that use this substance? Because they don't seem really to represent our community of people and how we view cannabis and how we use cannabis. So yeah, that makes me wonder too. So rolling, eh, George?
Yeah.
He hates me for it, but
She's a slave, man.
George.
a lot of people don't want to have to roll their own
rolls
joints.
good
They like
joints.
to buy
George
pre-rolls.
is here because somehow we came together during pot protests and he was a holy roller for us. This is true?
Yeah.
Okay, we tried
A lot of rolling for 420.
Yeah, a lot of rolling for 420.
Thousands of joints.
And then, did I put it out there that I wanted rollers for Vandu, or how did you end up coming to Vandu? Were you just there?
I was
them out of the line.
one of the people in the Vandu lineup at the time, and
You had just heard about
you
what we
were
were
short.
doing?
You were short one day. You needed somebody to roll, and you came out and said, "I know you. Come here. You want to roll joints?" And I went,
see.
"Sure."
And then he eventually worked himself into being the head roller, in charge of rolling. He's the one I would give my bag of weed to when I got to Vandu, because we always rolled joints on site at Vandu during our giveaways there. That was something I really wanted to do rather than have people roll it up at home and then bring it in. I thought that it'd be nice to have a table full of people with a pile of weed on it rolling joints. And it was a statement that I was making. All of what we did at Vandu served a number of different purposes, and one of them was the same purpose as what our pot rallies are all about, is we're trying to demonstrate the safety and the value of cannabis. And so we wanted to just, you know, as part of our demonstration, have a table full of people rolling joints. We also had the dab bar set up for people that could come and have a dab on site. And we had lots of signs talking about what we were doing and why we were doing it and how it was working, because these are demonstrations, and that's what we're doing. We have been demonstrating the fact that cannabis can help with the opioid epidemic about 600 times now. We did exactly 300 events at Vandu before we switched over to our store and then eventually to the RV. And we've been in the RV for almost a full year. It'll be a full year next Sunday. We were in the store for 5 months before that. So we have been demonstrating 6 days a week for the last 16 months, you know, definitely another 300 plus days, just how well this works. And if any government official, person in charge of making decisions to do with us, would simply come here and spend the better part of the day with us and see our attitude and see the attitudes of the people we're helping, see the situation of the people that we're helping, and see how much we're helping them, they would have that license in our hands just like that. But they've never been here. They've never come. We've never had a politician of any sort from any level come and actually spend any time with us or even come at all. They never came to Vandu. We were at Vandu 300 times. 300 times we lined up hundreds of people on the street through rain and snow and wind and heat. 300 people would line up twice a week. We made it obvious what we were doing. We contacted the media on a regular basis to come and cover what we were doing. The Vancouver Courier came and did a story once. The Quebec version of CBC came and did a story that ran in Quebec on us, but no other media has ever come and covered us. I did get to sit with Linda Steele on CKNW and discuss cannabis and access a few times, but other than that, they've never covered really what we're doing here. I've sent them long explanations of what we're doing here. I have emailed. Linda Steele's no longer a broadcaster with CKNW, by the way, but during the time that she was, I emailed her producer on several occasions. They even asked me for updates on what we were doing, but they never talked about it on the show, had me on, never came here and interviewed people. No mainstream media has. Why? That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, this is a big issue. The overdose epidemic crisis is a really big issue. Cannabis's legality or illegality is and has been a really big issue for a very long time. The government did that by making it a criminal offense to deal in cannabis. So here we are, breaking criminal law in Canada, providing high-dose edibles, which the government doesn't allow, to hundreds of people, 300 times, and other than the Courier and the Quebec version of CBC, nobody came. We had documentary groups come. We did have some of that, but no mainstream media. Why? Why? Then we open a store like no other store. Put up lots of signs to explain that we're not like other stores, that we're here to help with the overdose crisis. That we are doing that. That we've had great success. There's so many papers now that have been put out, peer-reviewed, on the efficacy of cannabis for the opioid crisis. Why aren't we getting covered? What's going on? Recently found out that there was a movie called The Body Brokers about the treatment industry and how it's a revolving door. There's another word, recovery go-round. Brian Carlisle, a fine gentleman friend of mine, came up with that term when I shared that movie with him. The recovery go-round. The recovery go-round is a profiteering idea where they take taxpayers' dollars and people's personal dollars and insurance companies' dollars and tons of them to pretend to treat people for opioid addiction when really they're just wanting customers. And if that customer comes back several times before dying or finally getting off of opioids, that's exactly fine with them, because that's several times of getting their money for having that bed filled. It's disgusting. And is the media invested in treatment? Some of our lawyers are. Good people are. They don't know. They don't understand. There's money in treatment, so it's not a bad investment. But do they understand why there's so much money in it? And that they're really not there to try to help people? They have a less than 10% success rate? Anyway, it goes on and it goes on. But we don't get coverage, so I do this show every week. I hope you people share it out widely, because our story is not being told amongst any of the mainstream media. And that was always one of my goals, was that the mainstream media let everybody understand that high-dose cannabis edibles can help people get off of opioids, can get them through withdrawal, and can replace the use of those substances. People need to know that. And the mainstream media does not want to report that. It is not news that's out there. Most people don't get it. Most people think, yeah, cannabis, is not as strong as the opioids, so it's obviously not going to replace the use of the opioids. Well, in the form of edibles, it can be as strong as the opioids. It can be stronger. Well, not to the point of killing you, but it can sure give you quite the trip if you eat too much, so don't eat too much. But the right dose is extremely beneficial for people, and the mainstream media needs to help people understand that. All they report on is that children get into it. You might have your children get it on Halloween. Trust me, nobody likes your kids well enough to give them edibles. Those things are expensive. It ain't a thing. It's never been a thing.
They might give them out if your kids are really annoying and they want to shut them up. Here, have a pot brownie and pass
It's
out.
not happening. I mean, maybe in a million cases there's one of somebody for some particular kid that for some particular reason, but it's just not a thing.
No.
Cannabis consumers are good people for the most part. They're responsible human beings. They're not going to purposely dose your kid with high-dose edibles for fun. It ain't happening. So, but that's what the media wants to talk about. And they always want to talk about, oh, there's been all these kids in hospital, the increase in hospitalization since legalization. Well, the reason for that is because kids have always been getting into edibles and people's stash, but people didn't want to take their kids to hospital in the past when they'd done that, because it was illegal. But now you can have edibles. You can have high-dose edibles. You can make your own high-dose edibles. You might not be able to buy them from a government store, but you're allowed to have them. So thank goodness people can at least, you know, feel safe enough to take their kid to hospital if they feel they need to. You don't need to if your kid's eating too much high-dose edibles, by the way. Hopefully, most hospitals understand that the right thing to do is not pump their stomach, to just give them a pleasant experience in a nice, quiet, dimly lit room with some music and their mom, you know. But you can do that at home, and that's what you should do at home. And try to keep your kids away, but we all know that. But kids are kids, right? Kids get into your liquor cabinet, even if you lock it and hide the key. They get into the stuff under your sink, even though you tell them not to. They rummage around in your garage and your basement and find stuff they shouldn't find, because that's what kids do. Kids are kids. Kids get, yeah, Tide Pods, and kids get into stuff. They get poisoned all the time, and there's a center for that where you take them, and there's a whole listing of all the kids are poisoned for all the different things every year. And so the media likes to talk about how there's an increase in kids poisoned by cannabis, except what they don't talk about is there are no health defects as a result of that for the kids. They wake up the next day feeling fine, if anything refreshed, and get a better sleep than they've had in a while. There are no health risks to kids getting into edibles, although you don't want your kid getting into your edibles. It just makes sense, right? But it's not like it's a big deal. It's a big deal kids getting into alcohol. It's a big deal kids getting into other poisons that are in the house. Check the statistics. You'll see there's lots of kids every year in your area that end up poisoned. It's a thing. Kids get into stuff. They get poisoned. They're going to do that. So, but the media, like I say, is all focused on, you know, well, now there's an increase in hospitalizations for cannabis poisoning. They don't say anything else. They don't tell you that the kids are fine the next day. They just leave it hanging there that, oh, kids were poisoned by cannabis. Why? Why? Why does the media not want cannabis to be accepted and understood for the valuable medicine that it is in most cases? There is some good media stories, but they usually run right alongside some distorted lie about cannabis as well, some fear-mongering, some alleged this or that. Why? Are they invested in the illegal drug trade? Are they invested in the treatment industry? Are they invested in legal drug sales? What is it they're invested in? But truth is, if you check what they're doing, you'll see there's some motivation there. They're invested in something, and it's not in helping people understand the value of cannabis and helping people get access to cannabis. That is not on the agenda of the media or the government or the corporations, and it should be. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you guys want to say before I wrap it up? They're a very quiet crew.
I can't think.
They're just well behaved when I'm here, that's all. This place is...
Somebody gave us a whole box of packs of tuna today.
Is it Subway tuna? Does it actually have tuna in it?
Ocean's tuna.
Peri tuna.
Evan had a whole bunch of these, so he gave us
And
a
that's
whole
a
box.
way.
Ah, so we give these to people at the window and things like that?
That is
I
a
don't know
way.
what to do with them.
Things like that is a way that people like to give back.
Yeah.
They'll give us certain things like food. They'll give us, like, we've had some coffee, we've had donuts, we've had a box of chicken.
Well, they do two things, right? They do some personal stuff for you guys individually because they like you guys, but they also give us lots of times things that are for us to hand out to other people.
Yes.
That, they want to help what we're doing too.
Because people love.
Who did?
Evan.
Evan. Oh yeah. Oh, right
People
on.
love what we're doing, and they give. That's the way they can show us that they care.
Cool,
It's great.
cool. So that's wonderful. What do we got? We're right there, are we?
Very nice.
Interesting. So, okay, gang. In a few days, it's a year in the RV.
I know. I said
Anything
it
you want to say about that?
I said it in a kind of confusing way for Andrew. I said, today is the first day of our last week of our first year in the van.
Yes,
As you said it, I was
it is.
confused.
We're in our 52nd week in the RV here, and we're really hoping to get back in the store one day. This is the ongoing saga of the quest for a community-based, low-barrier access cannabis shop, and we're working hard on it for ourselves, for the people in this neighborhood, but for everybody else as well. This is the future of cannabis activism. This is what needs to happen. Is now the government needs to support low barrier access to cannabis for those people that are daily users and the sick and the suffering and people that need it all the time and they can't be affording, you know, super expensive, crappy cannabis. They need a place that cares, that provides really good quality cannabis at affordable prices. So that's what we're doing here. And thank you for watching. It's really important that this message gets out. As I just mentioned, we don't seem to get much in the way of the mainstream media telling our story, and it is a really valid, important story. So please share it out and do your part. Also, as I mentioned before, we have a new ministry in Canada with a federal government that's now added a new ministry to the health ministry. It's the Ministry of Health and Addictions. Carolyn
Bennett.
Bennett, thank you. I knew it was a B, but I didn't want to say it wrong. Carolyn Bennett is the minister in charge there. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. I'm sure that we should all very nicely send her information about the need for what we're doing here and the need for it to be approved so that it can be incorporated in other places across Canada where they have similar real crisis situations going on as well. So please get involved in that in any way that you can. Write a letter, send an email, you know the routine. There's a lot of different ways people can do and help the situation, and please make it your mission to help us as well, because it really helps future generations and everybody, including all those taxpayers that are being drained of their taxes for a war against cannabis and cannabis consumers that gains nothing except for profits for people that really don't deserve to have our tax dollars and your money. So thank you for helping and please help. I want to thank everybody that's been involved with our program and not just this Pot TV program, but the Cannabis Substitution Program and what we're trying to do there. All the great donators over the years, those that have been with us forever and those that came along and helped us along the way. All the people that have helped, thank you all so much. You're what makes this work. This is a team effort. It doesn't happen without a whole bunch of people pulling along the same route. So thank you all for that. There's other ways that you can keep in touch through Pot TV. I really thank Pot TV for giving me this platform. I have a need to get these things off my chest, and this is a way that I get to do that. So thanks to Pot TV for doing that. And they also have the 420 Lifestyle Show, very entertaining and educational Mondays on Pot TV. There's BC Bud Gal with her Wake and Bake show, Morning Glory, on Thursdays around 10 a.m. Johnny B, if he's not on Friday with How's It Growing, check his shows in the archives. That's the other thing we should all be doing if we can do is grow. Growing cannabis is great. It's certainly an economic positive thing to do for sure, but it's so positive in so many other ways. If you're sick, it's therapeutic. Growing cannabis is a wonderful thing to do, and it's an important thing to do. And the more we grow, the more chance we have of overgrowing the system of prohibition and overregulation. So grow your weed. And other than that, you know, we got Halloween coming up. Be careful out there. Stay safe. Make sure your kids are well lit if you're going to send them out. I don't know how much trick-or-treating there's going to be out there, but stay safe, whatever you're doing. There's still, you know, things going on in our world that we need to be safe and careful about. So be kind to each other while you're doing all of those things and going about your day. And most of all, you know, the world is stressful, and it's easy to be all stressed out about things. And on this show, we talk about a lot of very unpleasant realities and the truths of how our governments are corrupt and abusing us, and the corporations are fueling a horrible situation of people dying and not having access and all of these things. It's really, really important that you don't spend all of your time focused on the negative things. It's really, really important that you compartmentalize that stuff and be kind to yourself. For me, the most important thing is my life is short, and I just want to have as much fun as I can. So do the same.